I'm an Architectural Technology Program Coordinator here at Sandhills Community College. Today's experiment is going to center around erosion control, and erosion control is a really important piece of the puzzle when we're talking about the construction industry because it has a lot of impacts on our environment. So if you're majoring in architectural technology, civil engineering technology, geomatics technology, or our new program, environmental engineering technology, this experiment has a lot of real-world application. So what we're going to do is we are going to test out how soil erodes when water is applied. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have 3 different test groups. We're going to have test group 1 that's got just soil, test group 2 that has some soil and mulch, and then we're going to create together test group 3 that'll have some soil, mulch, and plants, and we'll see how the soil erodes. So the first step to make our final test group here is we are going to cut a whole section out of the top of this 2-liter pop bottle. So we're going to use an X-Acto knife for this. It's always a great idea to ask a parent for help if you need to. If you're uncomfortable with an X-Acto knife, and a pair of scissors will do the job just fine as well. So what I've gone ahead and done, I went ahead and tacked my 2-liter bottles onto a board just so when I start adding different materials and water, they don't fall off the table and they don't make a mess. The next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to make my 3rd and final collection basin. So you'll notice that I have 2 hanging already with the 2-liter bottle, so I'm going to go ahead and make that 3rd one now. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to cut 2 little slits right here on each side so I can add my string. Is going to be to add our soil to each one of our pop bottles. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. You're just going to go ahead and I'm using a scoop and some gloves so I don't get my hands all dirty. But we're going to go ahead and just fill each one of these bottles about that full. So in this second bottle, I'm going to add some additional mulch. So in my first bottle, what I want to have is just my soil. In my second bottle, I'm going to add some mulch and some other leaves to go ahead and simulate some erosion control measures we might use in the industry. And then in my 3rd bottle, I'm going to have soil, I'm going to have mulch, and then I'm going to also plant a few of these plants in there. Each one of my bottles filled and ready to conduct our sediment and erosion control experiment. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go over to our sink and I'm going to get a scoop full of water, and then I'm going to pour it in each bottle and I'm going to see what ends up washing out. So our next step is going to go ahead and we're going to take one of our scoops and we're going to go ahead and pour it into our bottle. And what I want to make sure when you do this, make sure that your basin is positioned to actually catch whatever's about to come out. So there's a little bit of play when you have it hanging on a string. So just make sure that your basin is going to catch the water. So here we go. So as you can see in our first bottle, our water is extremely dark, which tells me that a lot of our soil has eroded when we added the water. So next we're gonna go on to our bottle with mulch and soil and see what happens. So for our very last pour, we're ready to add in the water to the container that is holding our plant materials. Let's see what happens. See, there's a few different things to know. The first thing that I want to point out is when we went ahead and put water into this bottle, we had a gush of water come out and a lot of soil went with it. In our mulch example, our trickle was a little bit slower, and then finally in our plant example, it was the slowest of all. The other thing to note too is the different colors of the water. So when we just had soil without any erosion control measures, you see that there's a lot of soil loss, and so that's why our containment bin is darkest. And as you can see, it gets progressively lighter, showing us that the least amount of soil is lost when we have mulch and plant life. So erosion control is a really important concept when it comes to the architecture, engineering, and construction industries. If we don't control erosion, what happens is we lose fertile topsoil, which you saw in the first example, but we also damage plant and animal life, and we destroy natural habitats, as well as we can see failure in buildings and other structures, like our roads. So when we are building and we are taking into account the environment,